So Shane Striegel from Oregon is asking, who's the biggest baby when it comes to getting stitch?
Well, you know what? I'll tell you a story with BJ Penn.
Yeah.
You know, I wrap thousands of hands, yours many a times and all that, and BJ's getting ready for this big fight, right? And I put a little bit of tape on the gauze so it could stick. I could start wrapping my hands, and I finished wrapping BJ Penn's hands, and here he is getting ready to go to battle and defend his world title.
Wow.
And he's over there because the tape is pulling on his hairs. He's going, ooh, ah, ooh, ah, ah, ah. So I had to kind of cut that tape away from him. And I think, here BJ
You're such a tough guy.
Yeah, such a tough guy. And he's complaining, I got a little bit of tape on his hair.
Wow,
and so.
Come on,
so
BJ.
that was BJ, big crybaby. But now every time I wrap his hands, he says, stitch, no tape. And I said, okay. So yeah,
awesome.
he has to be the best.
Yeah. It's something that I love these things because some people think fighters, they don't feel, we have like, some people fighters have to be tough and all that, but they don't know the sides of like little things. But they in the ring, I call the lamb and the lion. Yeah. When we're in the ring, we're the lion.
Yeah.
When we're outside the ring, we all lamb. So
hey, listen, there's been times when I've had fighters cry like babies. And when I'm wrapping their hands and I give them a hug and I say, look, man, I love you and I'm behind you. Absolutely. And that's
what makes a good thing for the fans to know because some people see the guys making faces, being arrogant. All that behind that is a lot of fears, a lot of struggle, emotion. Of course, it's all about competition is about winning and losing. But if you can live your life, that's my personal beliefs. If you can live your life the same before a fight and after fight, I think the fans really recognize you living the truth. So I want to sell tickets, of course. We want to sell tickets. We want to get paid. But my main concern is to give to the fans who I really am, because I think that's the connection there. So, and you are that person. You are that person. So, one more question. Charlie Mary from New York. Who's your favorite fighter? It's kind of hard because I'm telling you, you have so many because boxing, MMA, so many fighters.
And the thing about it, and people ask me that all the time, and I guess the best way for me to answer that is number one, every fighter that I work with, from you to Randy to Forrest to the Klitschko's to all these guys, I look at you guys as my children. And for me, people say, well, who's going to win the fight? Yeah. I don't care who wins the fight. If I'm working with you, I want to make sure that I give you 150%. So, you guys are all my children, man. Yeah, and I love every one of you guys. And
it's really true because it's like this with me. Sometimes people ask me, and I like both. Sure. I just want a good competition, both get saved.
Absolutely.
It's kind of a hard question because, it's like, who you love better? You have 3 kids. Who you love the most? Exactly. I love them, all of them.
Yeah, right.
So, Chili Rudu Brogan from city of Romania. When you retire, who's the fighter that you want to corner in your last Cutman's nights?
Well, that's a good question. That I was going to say Vitor Belfort, but you'll retire. I'm going to be doing this for 20 years. I know you're not going to be fighting in 20 years, but the game in 20 years from now, because I don't plan on retiring until. I want to do this forever. The whole game is going to be different.
I can be your assistant when you retire.
As my protege, I'll take you as my protege, man. That'd be an honor. That'd be cool. So I don't know. The game's going to change so much between now and then.
So many talents.
Absolutely. But that's amazing. A good question.
Yeah. Zeki Guerrero from Texas. Have you ever told yourself, man, this guy is really messed up?
Absolutely. Diego. Just when he fought the other day, and with Martin Cutman, I wasn't. Rudy Hernandez was working his cuts, and I was just watching the fights. But he had so many cuts that Rudy Hernandez asked me to come help him work on Diego's cuts, and he was tore up, man. And Don House, the other cut man, said it best. It looked like he got hit with a chainsaw. Wow! And he just had cuts everywhere. And but once again. And that's a good
one thing that you've been. That's my question. I'm gonna stop a little bit, just going back to my question. Something that really I'm curious about. That I'm personal. I can have to say I'm personal. The elbows on the ground is something that I'm really doesn't consider too much skills because you can throw an elbow with your weight. Sure. Boxing, throwing an elbow, even Muay Thai, throwing an elbow on the top, you have to have skills like Anderson Silva throws like vicious elbows. John Jones vicious elbow on the top. But on the bottom, when you're laying someone, it's just kind of throwing elbows. So I think elbows, it doesn't have any protection, so opens big cuts. So in the boxing example, a lot of people, they mess their career because of cuts. You think the elbow can, if they like taking these things out, like because another guy is having a lot of cuts, he's gonna now elbow cuts is a different than punching cuts. So you think the elbows cuts can kind of easily open into the next fight?
Well, number one, it depends on how much time they have for it to heal, and that's really the whole key element. And different fighters have different. They cut differently, and a lot of it is through the skin tissue and the bone structure. But you're asking whether because elbows do cut pretty deep, and that takes a lot longer for it to heal. But once a cut is healed, it's usually pretty strong.
It's not like cut again.
Yeah, exactly. You have some fighters that have scar tissue time after time, but it's a cut that gets cut, and it's not so much.
Worse.
Yeah, it's because of their bone structure or something like that, and it's the same cut all the time.
So we go to Max Mosta from Utah. It's guess Vitor calls Marvin Eastman still the worst we ever seen. Like the cut that when I fought Marvin Eastman was kind of.
Well, people ask me what's the worst cut I've ever seen. All right, I've ever worked on. They ask me. Congratulations, you won. You get that prize for having the biggest cut I ever worked on.
That was kind of nasty.
And that was a nasty cut. A fan said it best. It looked like a filleted shrimp. It just opened up so big, but the cut was real big. And one thing with being a cut man, Marvin was in shock. Number one, you hit him with a beautiful knee, and he was gashed. And me, outside of stopping cuts, I have to use psychology with fighters all the time. And I knew that he was a little bit of shock, and I said, Marvin, this is the biggest cut I've ever seen in my whole life. And when I did that, he started smiling. I was joking with him, but I did that so I could see if he was okay. And when he started smiling with my joke, which wasn't a joke, it was serious, but I did that for a reason. I knew he was okay.
It's so amazing
how that was a big cut.
It's so amazing how many things that you use with your, like saying something for the fighter in that moment help them.
Absolutely,
like relieve.
Well, those little things of encouragement.
And Frank, he said, how you became a Cutman. We already talking about that. Like just passion and and something that really interests. Like because you only learn if you have passion. Because like you said, you have a hard time because people want to pass through you.
Yeah, and I had my own school of kickboxing, so I was not only a trainer. I was a manager, I was a promoter, and I ended up being a cut man also. But I liked being a cut man. It was different than everything else. And anybody could be a promoter, anybody could be a trainer, but not everybody could be a cut man. No. So
it is.
I enjoy doing.
And even everyone can be a fighter because now we can people retire from all the jobs and I want to enjoy UFC. Come on, Dana, you have a space. Be a fighter.
I want to be a fighter. Yeah. I tell people I'm glad I'm old, and I'm glad I don't go to bars because I don't have to fight no more. I'm too old to fight. I don't have to prove myself anymore.
Because I think Dana has a tough job right now, and Joe Silva and Lorenzo, because everybody wants to retire from American football. Say, I want to enjoy UFC, make some extra money.
Absolutely.
Yeah, you have to have skills. Now you have these guys like John Jones and all of them. They have pretty nasty
great warriors,
skills.
Man.
Yeah. So let's go here to Anna Taylor. And which was the most memorable fight of MMA in your opinion?
Well, for me so far it's been, I tell you, it was a fight with Chuck Liddell when he fought Wanderlei Silva. And what that was a tough fight because I'm there at the octagon and I could hear these punches. I mean, they're just hitting each other and they're cracking each other, and I'm thinking, wow, what a fight. But what made that fight special, and one of the many stories I have is a week before I had told Wanderlei, it was my birthday that same day. And I'm working in Chuck Liddell's corner. But after the fight, I go and I clean up Chuck Liddell, and I see Wanderlei, and I go check on him. How you doing? And he's all swollen and he's all banged up, and just been in probably the toughest fight in his life. And he says, "I'm okay." He says, "But happy birthday, Stitch." Wow. And I'm thinking, here I am. These two warriors, these two gladiators, just finished probably one of the best fights of the decade. And he's wishing me a happy birthday right after that.
That's awesome.
Yeah, it was crazy, Yeah, but these are the special moments.
Show how like a person, like even fighting, how like his focus and how memorized
he remembered that.
Yeah.
He remembered that.
Awesome.
That was crazy.
So I'm gonna go to Tim Patrick, Nova Scotia, is asking, what was the first cut you repair in the UFC? Remember the first cut?
Wow, no, cool. I remember the first hands that I wrapped was Dave Monet and Jens Pulver, but God, no, I don't remember. That's a good question. Nobody's ever asked me that. That's a good question. Yeah. I don't remember, but I tell you what. Wow, that's a good question.
Another question is from Rick Budo. What's your favorite country to work in beside the USA?
Montreal, Canada is great. We'll be going up there, and but the fans are so great up there, and Australia is pretty awesome. Those are two good countries that are just big fan favorites.
Talking about Australia, we have Daniel Aminko from Sydney, Australia. Say, Jacob, in the early days, the UFC headbutts were allowed and brought more variation to ground fighting. However, how they are banned? Do you think headbutts should be allowed back in UFC?
No, they don't. And you know what? I quit watching the UFC before Dana and them. Before Dana and them bought it.
Nasty.
It was so brutal. It was, and me being a martial artist, Vitor, it wasn't even a sport. It was
like I said, like even the elbow on the ground, I'm kind of avoid that. I'm against a little bit of that. But imagine a headbutt.
Yeah,
come on.
Yeah,
your head is made by thinking, to think,
exactly.
or to move.
Yeah.
So. Well, we got Richard Lopez from California. Who was your mentor growing up?
Well, growing up was my mother and father because, we grew up poor, but they didn't let us know we were poor. So in that aspect, they're the ones that taught me the values that I have right now through hard work and be honest with people and be fair to people and just, be a good person in awesome. Total. But as a Cutman, it was Chuck Bodak. And Chuck Bodak was the guy that used to work with. No, he passed away he was 92 years old. But you could describe it. He was the cut man for Oscar De La Hoya that used to put the tape on his head. Looked like Colonel Sanders. Yeah. Very good man. Very good man.
I remember him. How long he passed away?
About 5 years ago, actually.
Wow.
But he was my mentor.
Wow.